Hi everyone, so welcome to Twitch. So Rufus, I guess we're still in this space where we don't know if we're live or not, you know.
Yeah,
so,
I don't see any live going on, but
yeah.
I see you guys up there. Yeah.
So who knows? Maybe you can tell us in the chat if you can see something. That will help. That's always a thing.
Good afternoon, Joris. Hey, Joris, can you actually see us?
Hey, StarCrunch.
Hey, StarCrunch.
Yeah, because we are three people today.
Yeah, I didn't get any alerts or anything, so
yeah,
we're never sure that we're actually live.
Yeah, there's always this mystery, but I think we are live.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we are. So, yeah, as you can see, usually
StarCrunch sees us. Okay.
Oh, I see the light. Okay, that's great.
Yeah.
So you can see the light, you can see Rufus, you can see myself. I am in Paris, Rufus is in Italy, and we have a special guest. Today we are very lucky to have Dani. Maybe Dani, you want to introduce yourself first?
Sure, my name is Dani. I'm here in San Francisco, California, and I'm a product manager on Adobe Muse.
Yes, Adobe Muse PM, product manager, and you had a lot of coffee, I guess, because it's really very early in the morning, so thanks for being with us. So maybe we can ask people in the chat who already joined, who knows what Adobe Muse is and what you can do with Adobe Muse, or maybe you used it, but I guess Dani, as a product manager, you can explain in one sentence. I mean, what would be your definition of Adobe Muse?
So Adobe Muse is an application that allows you to visually design a website without having to code up that website. It's a design application, and it's extensible by way of widgets for open web standards. So you can build a lot of functionality in the application and publish directly to the web without having to have a coder work with you to produce that website.
Yes. So you can design and publish a website without coding. That's the promise. But what is great with Adobe Muse, I mean, I'm sure we will see some examples, is that you have like pretty sleek design. Like it's not like just a web page that, I mean, produced in 1996, you know, like
front page.
Yeah, front page websites.
Yeah, front page. Remember that?
Or go live, you know, because we can bash Microsoft, but also we can bash Adobe with Go Live. I don't know if you remember this one.
But Go Live was, we can't bash anything about Go Live, because Go Live was awesome.
But now Go Live is Go Dead.
Yeah, exactly.
In the cemetery of apps, with fireworks and everything. Yeah. So now the new thing, the new kids on the block is Adobe Muse. And Pigeon, oh my God, I like this name. There are so many pigeons in Paris. So is it a real website? Yeah. Kick a Pigeon.
Yes and no. There's a fellow who's an amazing designer, or he has a good sense of visual design for sure, and he did a campaign for this actual Kickstarter project. So if you go to Kickstarter, I believe he received funding. I think he's there in Europe. I think he's in the Nordic region.
Yeah, it looks like an object from Denmark. You know, they always have amazing bikes, amazing objects in Denmark. So I wouldn't be surprised. And so we already have questions, and that's great because we really are lucky to have Dani with us. She's the product manager of Adobe Muse. So it's time to ask questions. So we already have a question for you, Dani. By Joris, asking if when you build a website with Muse, like is it ready for production when it comes to SEO, you know, like search optimization, or like is it easy to find on Google, etc.?
Yeah, sure. So the thing that's interesting, I work with some amazing engineers. Many of the folks on the team worked on InDesign for 15 years, and they took that concept of web design, the concept of laying out for print to the web. So you in essence lay out the website in a visual design way. But what Muse does is it is machine generated code. So when I design a page and publish to the web, the code that is generated is not hand-coded in essence. But I was corrected once by the engineering manager. He said, although it's machine-generated code, an engineer hand-coded that which is generated, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it can be, we on the team are in control of that code, but they put very special attention in constantly looking at all of the browsers, all of the platforms, all of the devices that are out there, and optimizing it for things like search engines. So we just delivered responsive design in our feature set. And that's amazingly critical when you're designing a site. Let's say if we look at this Pigeon site, notice that as I drag the edge of the browser, it's going to go to a tablet layout.
Hamburger.
The Hamburger Menu, where the navigation becomes easier for a touch device. And then if I drag again, I can go to a phone layout. This will use something known as viewport scaling, and it will scale that smallest breakpoint to my mobile device, my phone. The other advantage is, notice I have 4 images here. If I drag back out to the tablet or the desktop, it's 6 images.
Nice.
So I can come in and hide content that I don't want to show on a more small device like a phone. And the beauty is behind that. The SEO, what search engines like Google look for is that URL, is that site the same across all the devices to help optimize the search engine ranking? And it is. The code that we generate, that's true. Other things we do, like this is a graphic, but it's an SVG. So if I did something very, very silly and made this incredibly large, you'll notice that that graphic is scaling to the resolution of my device. Because it's scalable vector graphics, it will load across all devices at the resolution of the device. So it's optimized to load very, very quickly.
So when it comes to SVG, so this is something we covered a lot during the streams, creating vector graphics. And we noticed that when you are in Illustrator and when you copy paste something, this is SVG. So is it the same with Muse? Like, can I create an icon in Illustrator and just copy paste it in Muse and it will become SVG?
It is. And Muse has been shipping for just about 4 years. It's about 3.5 years old at this point. But the beauty is, as I mentioned, our team has continued to optimize it. They suffer the pain of having to be compatible across many browsers. So we go to Internet Explorer and we try to have fallbacks or compatibility with the older world, but we also look to the new world. And SVG, for example, has evolved to be very much a standard in the open web. So we do generate SVG, and we also support the Creative Cloud libraries, which I'll show when I actually start building out a site. But that makes it so easy to be in Illustrator, as you say, and drag a component into the library, switch to Muse, drag it out, and it is that SVG format.
So we have Marco Baku with us who's saying, I've been learning the basic of Muse in just a few hours over a weekend. It's amazing how you can go from graphic to publishing in a way I always wish I had. Thank you, Marco.
Yeah, it's one button. Publish.
One button publishing.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. Hey, good afternoon, Tip Squirrel, Legacy of Pi. Yeah, we have people joining. That's great. So we are with Dani Beaumont, who is the product manager of. I pronounce it the French way, Dani. I have to.
You should. Daniel Beaumont.
Yeah, Daniel Beaumont. It's French.
That's all the French I know right there.
And she's the product manager of Adobe Muse. So we're very lucky to have her because she will introduce us to. Maybe the most important feature ever released in Muse, which is how to design responsive pages. And so it's time for you to ask questions, any questions about Muse. And there is also, Erika Drayton who says, oh my God, I'm so used to hear the voice of Dani on Thursday. It's nice to put a face on the voice.
We're lucky to have her because she will introduce us to...
And there was a small echo.
That was me because the
delay.
The stream just started on my iPad. So.
Okay, good for you.
So just so you know.
So shall we go ahead and build the site? What do you think?
Yeah, that would be great. You already have a feedback from Legacy of Pi. So I guess it's someone who knows Muse, because he says, really wish we could combine responsive with scroll effects, but maybe in the future.
It's a very good request.
So what do you think,
complex
Dani?
one too, right?
What do you think?
It is, and we're somewhat jumping the gun, but I tend to want to explain that since we brought it up. I'm going to bring up a website, one of our older assets. So this is Ike's Bikes.
I like this one.
And this is a site. This one will come back in the fall. In fact, we're going to reuse it and make it a responsive site. Right now, it's what's known as just a static website. So you'll notice if I drag the edge of the browser, this works on desktop. It's been designed using what's known as alternate layouts. This was our old world, where if you go to a phone, there's a different layout for phone. And if you design custom for the tablet, that would be there as well. But it doesn't automatically adjust. And what happened to the world is we used to say, oh, phone, desktop, tablet, and then there were things like an iPhone 6 Plus. If you turn it sideways, it suddenly thinks it's a tablet, and you can't argue with it. It no longer thinks it's a phone. And there were hundreds and hundreds of device resolutions and sizes. So this idea of designing for every single device became overwhelming. The world of responsive says, if I look at this design with my text and content, if I can drag, our rule within Muse is if your design breaks, you need to add a breakpoint. So notice how my layout sort of jumped from the world of desktop here. I made a decision that said the content, if you notice the navigation right here was getting a little crowded. So I jumped over and changed the layout for that smaller device. That world of responsive is new to us. Ike's Bikes doesn't have that yet, but it does have scroll effects. So if I drag up here, notice how the navigation at the top just stays there. And notice how the bicycle in the background is moving at a different speed than my other page content. That effect is using something called scroll effects. And what happened to our world, actually, Michael and I was chatting with him a little earlier today and explaining that it's not easy when you do something that's never been done before. And with scroll effects, Muse was the first tool to allow you to apply scroll effects without having to code it on a website. And we're also the first tool that's a visual design tool that allows you to visually place content on a canvas and make it a responsive site. So what's hard for us is in the world of scroll effects, you decide that an element needs to scroll or reveal or animate in relationship to the top of the browser window. And what we're solving but struggling with a little bit is, let's assume for a moment I wanted these images to show themselves when I was a certain distance from the top of the browser here. It's really hard for you as a designer to tell us what your intention is if when I come and drag the edge of the page, notice how this orange container is moving down. So long story short, we're looking at how we can allow you to have scroll effects when the distance from the top of the browser varies based on your breakpoints. And there's definitely some ideas we're playing with. I think you'll see us reintroduce scroll effects pretty soon. It's not going to be exactly the way it was going forward. We need to change that model a little bit, just given the fact that we're integrating both responsive and scroll effects.
Oh, it's great to hear that you are working on it. That's great. And what do we have? We have Marco back who are asking questions about the positioning of Muse. This one is not easy. He says that there are a lot of tools coming lately, like Figma, InVision, Sketch, Just-in-Time, Marvel app, or Mako. Can Muse be really the only tool? So let me start, and maybe Dani, you can add something. So when I read this list, Marco, I see Sketch, InVision, who are really clearly positioned as experience design tools. So more, let's say, in competition with Adobe XD that we released. Because the goal of these tools is to express a design and then leave it to a development team. Maybe they will work in Xcode to use Objective-C to build a mobile app, for iOS. Maybe they will use Java to integrate your design for Android, or maybe they will build a website based on your design. With Adobe Muse, what you need to understand is that, of course, it's very easy to quickly design web pages and very appealing design, very slick. But at the end, you really create a website that you can maintain, where you can also invite other people to review. And so there is this entire platform just to create a website. And even if you know how to create a website, like myself, for instance, I know HTML, CSS, JavaScript, but sometimes, and PHP, but sometimes if I just have to create a website with static content and I really want to focus on design, I use Adobe Muse, which is the case of the Adobe Creative Jam website, for instance. I decided to make it with Adobe Muse, and it's very easy to maintain, and everything is in one single project. I have my connections with Photoshop and the Creative Cloud libraries. So that would be my choice. So really the aim of Muse first is for you to let you design and publish a website. That's what you need to understand.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that it depends on, you use a different tool for the job. If you have a motorcycle, a scooter, a two-seater car, a pickup truck, and if you happen to own all of them, you perhaps are going to use the best vehicle for the job based on what you need to do. And interestingly enough with Muse, even folks that have a team of engineers that will code up a website are using Muse probably in a way that XD will be used as it evolves, which is to prototype the interactivity and the user experience for the purpose of validating that before they hand it to a coder to build it out. And we see that a lot. Just as that design phase, even if you don't code it. But what happens is people start in that manner and then realize how hard it is to code it and how Muse really does a really terrific job. So I think they start to just publish directly from Muse for many cases once they're familiar with the tool.
And Joris is asking about accessibility, I guess, because he's saying the code generating, like, can it be accessed by a screen reader, or do you have to clean the code? There are some good ways to structure your code actually with Muse. Yes. I remember that when you create paragraph styles, for instance, because Muse really comes from the world of InDesign. So you can say these paragraph styles in HTML will become H1 title or H2 or paragraph. And hierarchy is very important for screen readers. So at the end, it's just HTML.
I think one thing that people, like Muse was a thing when we launched, and Muse has evolved so much over the years, over these 2 years. What is it, 2 years now, Dani?
We're getting old. It's been more like 3.5.
Okay, all right. But anyway, that code, even the code has evolved to a quality that is perfect almost, and at the beginning, there was a lot of talk about, the quality of the code, et cetera, because it's machine created. But like you just explained, Dani, it's not really machine, generated, because somebody at Adobe actually wrote the code that is going to be generated. So a lot of these things actually change. So everyone here in the chat who thinks about the code, about how the code is structured and things like that, I invite you to look at the code. Although in Muse you can't look at the code, you would have to open the page in a browser and see it there. But it has changed a lot.
Yeah, I think that so for example, I can take this page that was built in Muse. So this is a responsive design using the latest features, and this is on the. We'll talk about this as a resource in just a second. But if I come in and view page source, I can look at the code that we generate. Now, if you're a hand coder, people say it's div-itis, like, oh my God, there's so many divs. I think also the intent there is, in some ways, a hand coder wants to go hand code around those attributes. We honestly work very hard, not to make it hard for a hand coder, but we work hard to not worry about the structure of the divs, I believe, when we export. So if I came in and added a new leaf here to my design, we are going to renumber all of the divs on the page when we generate the code.
Yeah.
And the idea is, if there is code that you miss, and we'll talk about this if we have time, if there's code that you're missing, if you're good with the web and you want to do something, there's this extraordinary space where many code-focused people have built out widgets that extend the functionality of Muse. So let me go ahead and introduce this. If you're new to Muse and you want to have resources, the Muse team is relatively small in comparison to some of the other products at the company. And when we first started, there was 5 of us. And we needed to get the word out to our customers so that Adobe understood and respected that this was a serious tool and that would be adopted by users. So we built a site called muse.adobe.com. And it was entirely built with a beta version of Muse originally. We had 1.2 million people come to that site, which is crazy for a beta tool. But it is a means still by which you can learn about what's going on with the team. I've recently moved the back end of this site over to CMS. I actually use Shopify, but the landing page is always still built directly in Muse. In this area, you can access widgets. And depending on what you're looking to do, let's say you want to integrate a calendar into your Muse design, you can select that filter. And there are different components, either by subscription or by individual price, that are just widgets you can add to extend the functionality. If you're a coder and you understand XML, HTML, CSS, you can build your own widgets to extend Muse to inject that code that you find is missing. Other things that are good in this area, if you click on tutorials, you'll see videos that I've recorded up. There's long tutorials. This is a great place to get started with Muse, which is building your first responsive design in Muse. It's a tutorial on the Creative Cloud Learn area, and it's about 65 minutes of video, but it comes with assets and will take you through, I think it's maybe 2-3 hours for you to learn it,
Nice.
But it's a really nice deep dive there.
It's free.
And then and it's totally free.
Nice.
We also have some starter files where you can come and select the responsive version, open it up and just customize it if you're very, very new, and then more deeper tutorials. Another area that's just fun to go to is Site of the Day. And as a team, we pick 3 sites a week. And they're just examples of, it may not be the most perfect design ever. This one, I think, is a terrific example of an average website. I hope they're not watching. But if I click on this site, it's not the most beautiful site I've seen, but we've only been shipping responsive design since February 20. So it's very new to us. And to see full-on websites from customers that are working so well with responsive, again, maybe not high design, but high functionality with a brand new release of the feature is really exciting. So Site of the Day is a great way for you to come in and see what people are doing with the tool. It goes all the way back.
Also submit your own.
Exactly. If you have design work, please send it to us. We may not select it. We get a few hundred every week.
Wow.
But we love to see it and we love to learn from it. If you go to page 37 here, it'll show you the very first beta sites 4 years ago. I also need a little motivation, but I'm going through all 800 sites and I'm making sure they're still there. But I'm also categorizing them. So I'm up to about the letter C, to be honest. So I have a long way to go, but I'm breaking it out into categories. So if you're looking for a particular site that's built in Muse for a particular category. So if a lot of people in the chat say, go for it, Dani, maybe I'll get 3 more letters deep this week. So.
Nice.
All right. Let's see in the chat. Everybody,
Go, Dani.
Go ahead. What is this?
Do the work. I know.
Okay, so if you
let's go ahead.
let's create a page. So if you just join us, we are with Dani Beaumont, who is the product manager from Muse, and she will show us how with Muse you can now create a responsive page, which is
so what we're going to do today is play with this site. So as I mentioned, I live in San Francisco, and this is a playful website. I was telling Michael that none of these houses are in San Francisco. And if they were, this is my neighborhood, Noe Valley. And believe me, I could never afford that. house, and I don't think anyone could, but it's an example real estate website for San Francisco. And this was actually built by one of our partners. So there are many Muse users that build templates for the community, and you can also find that on a resources page back here. So if you click on resources, we've got a list of some of the bigger template providers. And this is from Muse Themes. They're our oldest template provider. They sell widgets and templates, and they're just pretty terrific. They're a nice large group of folks that extend our application. So this is their template. But for a moment, let's just assume I'm starting from scratch and I want to build out this site. And you can even see this is a static website. It's not responsive. So I'm going to build it, but I'll also introduce the responsive design. They're doing construction here in the Adobe office.
Yeah,
So
I know.
You can hear it. Yeah.
I know. So as you're working, as I mentioned, it's a very visual design tool. It's a layout application. One thing I would encourage that I'm learning is, as a designer, you have to think almost in two directions. One is, what's the content? How do I want my pages to lay out? So you'll notice I've got a pretty rich site here with a number of pages. The other thing that's hard for your brain is, simultaneously as I look at a site or think about a comp, thinking about how I'm going to work with the responsive version of that site. So if I come down here, I've got a single column of text. I can probably collapse the width of the site for a phone and just have this reflow, have the text flow down a column. For things like this area with 3 columns across, I would probably add a breakpoint for tablet and just show 2, and then a breakpoint for phone and just show them single column stacked on top of themselves. So when you begin, and as you're working out whether it's wireframes or Photoshop comps and thinking about your design, this is kind of where you start in your brain. This here, for example, I could go to a 2-column as it is and scale it and then stack it on itself. So that's my goal, and I want to begin from scratch. Nice. We're going to kind of go a little faster as time goes by a bit, but let's at least start from a brand new file.
Good.
So I'll come over into the Muse application, and I want to create a new site. Now I have the ability to define this new site here, and if you're familiar with Muse in the past, before responsive, many of the options we've had traditionally, let's say you still want to use the adaptive method for building out sites, and you're using an alternate layout. So you still want phone, tablet, and desktop. You can choose that, but we really encourage this idea of designing responsive if at all possible. So if I leave all the default settings, page width and such, if I work with columns, I can set up a grid system, like a 12-column or 16-column grid. And I'll just click OK. And Muse then takes me to one of 4 workspace layouts. I see here on the right, I'm in the plan mode. I can design, preview, and publish. And as Rufus said, that one-click publishing is really amazing. So just here, when I go to publish, I can choose to push it to Adobe's hosting called Business Catalyst. I can create a trial. I could share it with Michael and Rufus in 10 seconds, send them a link, and they could.
And one thing that I want to reiterate here is that as part of your Creative Cloud membership, actually allows you to publish 5 websites on Business Catalyst. So
this is where we learn from each other. So, Mr. Deuchler,
I think this is.
It's changed a little bit. Yeah. If you have an old Creative Cloud account, so if you licensed Creative Cloud maybe 1 year ago or longer, you get 5 hosted sites for free. After that time, you can create trials. So it will say businesscatalyst.com, but that site will stay there and it'll pretty much always stay there. So you don't even have to republish. It won't expire. But to put your own domain on it, you do need to probably buy a hosting from a third-party host platform. Yeah. So with that, you just enter your FTP details and you can publish to your hosting platform. Or remember I talked about how designers use Muse and then they hand it over to coders. You can export to a folder as HTML, and there you'll have a CSS style sheet. You'll have optimized images, high DPI images and such. You can throw away the HTML, let your hand coders build it, but then they have a working prototype and optimized content to hand code by way of the export feature.
All right.
So we have also a question from Joris that is interesting, because for the Muse team, when you export the code, you will have to make some choices in terms of code, like what kind of web standard I can use. So what drives your choices? Like
the team has their feet firmly planted on the ground and their hands up in the sky as much as they can. So we have tough discussions. We, for example, we converted our effects, things like shadows, fills, gradients, to be CSS. As I mentioned, if we can create a poster image for fallbacks for older browsers, we'll do it. But some things we have to examine the open standards of the web and how far we think we can go with those standards in order to add a feature. So it's very tough for them. Some things we'll show them, oh, look, this website is doing this great thing. Why aren't you doing it? And they have to carefully consider how consistent across many browsers and platforms it is. What we rely on as designers is I can trust that if I can do it in Muse, it will behave across all those platforms and devices without my worrying. So that's how they make the decision, I think.
I think it's the main motivation, because you need to realize that the web is wild. So when you create a page, you really want it to be rendered with exactly the same design, the same fonts, the same effects, the same colors on all browsers and all devices. So I guess this will drive the choice of a technology. So they won't use a new CSS property if it's not in, I don't know, like 90% of the browsers. It wouldn't make sense. Or at least they will build a fallback or a polyfill in JavaScript to make sure. But the goal is really to have consistency, like the same design everywhere, and you don't have to care about it. And if you talk to web developers, web integrators, this is where they waste a lot of time to make sure you have the same design everywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
And also we have some questions about, oh my God, it will replace the job of web developers, etc. So maybe we should just explain what are the use cases of Muse, because today what you can design and publish with Muse are what I call static content websites. So websites with content that if you want to update it, you will have to open Muse, update the content, and publish again. Okay, basically. So it's not like a CMS, although I'm sure there are some ways to connect it to CMS, but the main use case is that. Like, I want to publish a website with 10, 20 pages and control everything. And in this case, I feel that I don't need to call a web developer just to publish, web pages. And now that I can do responsive pages, it's even better, because responsive, when you think about it, it's not really about coding. It's just CSS rules. It's not like you don't have to learn Java or JavaScript to make a responsive website. It's all about the CSS and some design choices. So I don't know if there is a strategy from Muse to let the people or a Muse website behave as a blog or a CMS where I could update the content.
Yeah, it's a good question. I would agree. I mean, again, you only know what you know in your own life. And I've been maintaining this site, as I mentioned, for 4 years. And there came a time where it was too painful to do it manually. So if you look, I have events here. And each time I would add a new event, I would place it at the top and move everything down and then move one to the next page. Yeah. And it became painful. Also for timely things like the events, I can't set a publish time and have this show up. If I had a CMS, I could. So for smaller sites, as Michael mentioned, 5, 15, 20 page sites, Muse is comfortable. When there starts to be dynamic data and back-end systems, it becomes harder. I guess I'll contradict myself in saying that, though, because these Muse customers that we work with have lately gotten really good at extending Muse by way of widgets for CMS systems. So there is a full-on blogging engine from cookie.com, and that blogging engine allows you to, in essence, use a Muse widget to push out a blog, build out all the PHP constructs on the hosting platform of your choice, and then just continue to populate in the browser or in Muse once you've instantiated that. Other things like there's a Shopify widget that allows you to build a store within your design that's feeding the inventory from your back-end Shopify system. So I know that we have a saying, at least in America, when all you are is a hammer, everything looks like a nail, right? So I live in Muse, and many of our customers do, and they've found ways to solve even CMS scenarios, but it may not be as well suited as a full-on CMS if you really are doing intensive work. And I think that we're just seeing as it evolves how that will change. I had another thought, but I forget it now. Okay, we got to get into this site because we're playing. All right, so I'm shooting for this site. And the first thing I want to think about is what's the structure? What are the pages that I'd like to work with? Yeah. And I see I've got these pages present here, at least in my primary nav. So I'll come back here. I tend to have a short-term memory here, so I'm going to come back and forth as I work here. But we've got home, listings, and buying. So back in the site plan, I'm going to visually decide how those pages work. I can come into home here, change the case. I'm going to add another page. Now, as I work, I can just add pages by clicking back and forth here. I'll add this one for buying. Let's say I added about. And then I'll add selling. And then lastly, contact. And I can change the size of my thumbnail so that it all fits well. Now, if you're familiar with the metaphor and InDesign of master pages, we apply that to the web. So in a master, let's say I have header content. If we look back at our site, notice that usually there's a landing page, and that usually has this nice hero area. And then interior pages will usually have a common footer and a common header element here. So as I click through these, notice that nothing on the top is changing. If I define my master to have all of that content, it can reoccur across individual pages really easily. Now here in my site plan, I kind of made a mistake and I put about in the middle of buying and selling.
Oh.
Or let's say I have a client who can't make up their mind. I know that never happens, but client says, I really want it here. No, I want it there. As a designer, as a coder, I'm going to want to know where they want it, but it's easy to change your mind. So I can come and say, you know what, go ahead and push the about page back between selling and contact. Now, I changed it in the site plan. When I build out my menus, it's going to also update my dynamic menu to reflect those changes too. All right, we're getting there. So we now have the pages set. Yeah. The next thing I do want to focus on, are we good with chat?
Oh, that's good.
Okay. What I want to look at is this top part and the bottom part and get that set on my master. So what I'll do is come back to my site and I'm going to come into that master page. I've got a master down here and I can double click on it. Now I have the ability to look at my structure. And as I mentioned, we use the metaphor of print. The web is a little different than print. So it kind of looks like a piece of paper. In that piece of paper, I've got a very subtle line here where you can see this represents my browser background and this is my page background. The web maybe 15 years ago, 20 years ago used to be web pages, and then browser backgrounds evolved to where usually people build full experiences. You don't see a piece of paper now on a web page, especially with the world of responsive, because you don't know how large that viewer is going to be. So usually folks will just do full browser design. I can come in and define how that browser looks here in my control panel. I can also change my page color. But then I have some other handles here that relate to the web. So I have the top of my browser, and then if I press and drag here, I can see I have a header. And this could be if I have different navigation on different pages, I could decide where the header content starts and stops. Now in this design, this line is pretty much the same across every page. Nothing's jumping around. So I'm going to simulate that header area, and this will be for my active page content. And then if I look down to the bottom here, silly. I'm learning how to use a trackpad for everything, and I can't do something well yet. This section here is my footer. So I'll increase the area for my footer section. I can also bring this down if I don't have enough room. Now, Muse uses an amazing DOM, or document object model, where when I paste content here, active page content, it will move footer items out of the way. It will grow containers like a text box dynamically so that everybody adjusts very well. Muse or websites tend to be fixed in width and dynamic in height, and then that width varies based on my responsive viewer. But they just do some really magical page structure that we'll see. So I've got some of my base elements here. At this point, I'm ready to start playing with the header and footer. And I mentioned I am going to cheat a little bit. I'm going to show you some optimization features that make building sites out quicker. If I were beginning from scratch, I would probably build these elements out in a custom way. But let's say you have a client and you do a new site for them every month, or you work for a company and you do different sites for different departments, but the branding, you already have a brand identity defined. What I can do is build out a Creative Cloud library. The beauty of Creative Cloud libraries, it's let's say Michael and Rufus and I all work together as designers. Maybe I'm in charge of the corporate identity for the company, and Rufus and Michael have to build out designs for clients or their colleagues. I can build this brand pack in essence, and then through CC libraries, I can share it. I can collaborate with them so that they can make some changes or just view it and not make changes depending on the permissions I give them. But they can easily access the same content through the Creative Cloud. I went in and I created a library for myself for this Hearth site. And some of what I've done is taken over the styling that I used in that original site. So let me show you how that styling worked. Rufus talked about this idea of being able to have good SEO because of the way you structure your paragraph and graphic styles. So let's look at that for a moment. I've got nothing going on in this new document, but I'm going to go ahead and grab my swatches panel here, and I'm going to go in and delete all unused elements. So it's just a bunch of gray colors, not much at all. I'll also come in and grab paragraph styles, and by default, there's nothing there. And I'm going to grab graphic styles. There's also nothing there. Now watch how magical this is. If I come to my Creative Cloud library and I select the fonts and colors library element and place that on the canvas. So I'm just going to come in and place it here for a second. It's adding into my site. And look at how the magic just happened. The colors came over. Paragraph styles are here. There are no graphic styles for these elements, but I could define them for things like gradients, colors, strokes, and such. And that would be associated with the elements. But just that easily, I've now introduced a style set. If I hit delete on the canvas, it's still part of this file. So if I said save right now, this could be the starting file I use every time I build out a site if I liked the styles I've done.
And the fonts are web fonts? You know, the fonts you were showing?
Yeah, we have a lot of choices there.
Okay.
You may have a client that has a non-web font. They use their corporate font, and it's only for print.
Sure.
Those fonts will be flattened as image files. You can put an alt tag or alternate text for SEO or for screen readers and such. More modern typography, we have the standard 13 fonts with what's known as fallbacks. And then we have the full Typekit library available within Muse. Now, the beauty of it is if I use a Typekit font in my design, send it to Rufus, when he opens it up, it's going to dynamically load all of the fonts that are needed for that design when you open up the file. So it's really smooth.
The same thing with InDesign, and this is really what makes the workflow, the Creative Cloud workflow and Creative Sync really perfect for these kind of sharing workflows.
Yeah, gets better and better, doesn't it? Thank God, since I've been doing this since Well, I'll tell you all a big secret. I turned 50 last week, and I started working at Adobe when I was 21.
Wow.
I went away to a startup in the middle, but yeah, that's a sad life to some extent. But put it this way, I love to see that we're at least moving forward in some way. Okay.
Well, congratulations.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. You should
That's
see the new
great.
motorcycle I decided to buy.
All right. Ooh.
Triumph
Oh yeah, we
motorcycle.
talked about it. The
Pretty
Triumph.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay, let's get back to
And
business.
we have I Hate Joe. He's asking if we have any plans to support Arabic right to left languages, in France.
It's a good question. And in some ways, I honestly have lost track of all of the languages we do have. It tends to be based on demand. We definitely have right to left for Hebrew, for example, for Japanese. We also have top to bottom for Japanese double byte characters.
Okay.
It depending on just demand, I think. So.
And you have people, you have happy birthday in the chat from.
Thank you. It was a really good.
Somebody says, "Stop the stream and show the motorbike."
I could accommodate that, but we don't have time. Just 1 second. Are you ready? This is a talk show, right?
Yeah.
If you're kicking me off in 15 minutes, we're not going to get to the website, but
you can stay actually.
You can stay.
Yeah.
I have another session in 2 hours, but
That's fine. That's fine.
All right, here's the thing. Never do this when you don't know what's going to come up.
Yeah.
There's me on the motorbike.
Oh.
How's that?
Oh
That's all you
yeah.
get.
All right.
Oh my god.
No, I'm showing way too much. I got to get out of here. Something's going to go wrong. But here's the thing. From a design standpoint, I have a client. His name is Aaron Lawrence, and he is an extraordinary typographer. He's young. He's in his 30s, and he does these type wheels, and they're gorgeous. They're all about San Francisco, famous places. He does them manually. He's a beautiful artist. He also does them digitally. So what I've talked him into is taking this really wicked, cool motorcycle of mine and using the word Triumph here and making a type wheel. So it's going to be a type wheel there. It's going to be a type wheel there.
Wow.
So he's going to customize this beautiful bike for me. Okay. Back to our regularly scheduled program. We're working on the Hearth logo now. All I want to do is add a logo. And if I come in here and just type logo, I can search either all libraries or I can search within the current library that I'm working with. So if I limit it there, I know I have the Hearth logo, and I'll press and drag that onto the canvas. And this is just, if you'll notice, it's an image frame. So it's not a digital logo. I probably would change it to be SVG because it's very graphical, but I can always work with a PNG. And as I work, I can control resolutions. If you'll notice when I drag this guy, you can see the percentage of its resolution. Yeah. I've got something enabled known as high DPI, which means that any object that is placed here at 50% or smaller will be able to load at a lower resolution and then bring in the high DPI, higher resolution if need be, and the monitor that I'm looking at, the display, supports it. So asynchronously bringing in high DPI images if I choose, if that resolution's there, if that makes sense. Okay. Logo done.
And, we have a question, Dani, because as you were sharing that we have another session, some people are asking like, how can I join the other session, or where does it happen? So you have a Facebook group, or?
Yeah, this endless day of mine that started at 4 o'clock in the morning. I have, if you go to muse.adobe.com or to Facebook, the events page will talk about it. So in 2 hours from when this started, so 2 hours later, we're talking about responsive widgets. You can register and find out about it on Facebook. The other big thing that's nice is anything I've done in the past, you can play the past recordings. So if you click on that, it will take you to a YouTube channel that has all of our content there. So they're available for playing later. Okay. So we were at the logo. And So let's say I just want to build this navigation. I'll go ahead and do it manually. And I'm just going to show you a little bit about how I cheat some too. There's some text here. It happens to be in a web page. I'm going to be a little lazy, and I'm just going to copy it and paste it here. Now, if it wasn't in a web page, I obviously would have to type it. But I could also copy it from a Word document, anything of that sort. For the text here, the pages, there's a gray color, and I'm going to also be a little silly and, well, it doesn't matter. I know I have this color. Some of what I do when I'm being really lazy is I'll just come in and use a screen capture program and just grab some of the colors. If I want to be super lazy, capture them. I'll put it on the clipboard. And then I'm going to come back to Muse. And I could just paste it for a moment. So and then with my swatches.
We need to teach you one shortcut on Mac.
Oh, yeah? Which is? That's why it's a jam session, man.
So what would be, I guess it would be Command, Alt, Shift, and F4. You can try Command, Alt, Shift, F4.
For screen capture, yeah?
Yeah. Just
try. Yeah, I know.
Okay.
Yeah. I know that one.
And you can copy paste.
But I'm like, I'm old, yes.
You want your tools. I
guess so. I'm simple-minded, it's like you have to have a system. Anyhow, I could grab these colors now if I wanted to and just, create a container and say, hey, I really want you to be filled with this color that I just grabbed really quickly. Alternatively, because we know I loaded up that swatch set, I already have those colors. So I'm going to use that reference, and I'll just come in and apply that color. Now, we are working with Creative Cloud libraries. We just delivered that in February. Some of what we need to improve a bit is being able to load and save cooler or color ASC swatches between applications. That's something we're working on now, so you should see that delivered in the product pretty quickly. Now, for this first example, though, I want to do something known as full browser width. So notice how no matter how large this site gets, these are going to continue to the width of the browser. So I'm going to come over here, and with that container here, maybe move this down just a bit more and bring this guy up towards the top, a little smaller. But I can just select it and say, go ahead and make it stretch to the browser width.
Okay. So that's new. That's just because you are building a fluid page, right?
Because I'm building, sorry, which?
A fluid page, like a responsive page?
No, this one thing that I showed you, this is actually old. So we've had, it was a different icon, but it would allow you to do that before. So this Hearth site was built before responsive, and that's the one thing you could do. You can have images and colors be full width for the browser. Yeah. But it's got much more complex now that we do have responsive, yes.
Yeah, I remember I used to write like 100% in the width parameter.
Exactly, yeah. Okay, so I've got my bar here now. What I want to do is bring in what's known as a widget. The widgets are common web behaviors that can be configured and styled to look like your site. So I'll go to the widget library, and I'm going to come in and select a menu widget. And I could choose horizontal or vertical. They're really the same widget configured differently. I'll press and drag horizontal on the canvas, and a little bit of magic just happened. See all of the pages that are here? This is reflecting my site plan. I can come in and choose only the top level pages in the site. I could have parent-child pages and have submenus here, or I can manually create a menu if I want to. And there's other configurable attributes here where I can design it to look the way I want. But with it just the way it is here, if I want to jump back to plan mode, and that crazy client of mine decided that the about page needs to go back between buying and selling. When I go back to my master now, indeed, about is between buying and selling. It's automatically linked. So it's connected to my site. I don't have to do that manually. I am going to go in and do a little bit of magic because I don't want to take too much time designing. I'm going to go back to CC libraries, and I think I've got a header menu here. Let's drag this on the canvas. probably set in white, so we don't see much. But I can come in now and just make some quick adjustments.
Okay, so you saved so to create this, I mean, you used the widget before in another Muse document, and then you set the styles, like the color, the typeface, and you just save it in a Creative Cloud library, so you can use the same menu in other projects. That's it?
Yeah, exactly.
Nice.
That's all it was. So I always can come in and make changes to that style if for some reason I want the design to be different. But yes, I just took a couple quick steps. But let's say for a moment, Rufus, my client, is annoyed and really doesn't like this typeface that is being used. I can always come in, we go back to my paragraph styles, and look at the text here. Actually, this doesn't have a style applied, which is interesting. I can create one. So I come in and say buying, I type T on the keyboard. This is where I see all of the fonts that are available to me. I see some that I've recently used. I could jump to web safe fonts, which is a very boring list. Actually, the standard fonts, which is the boring list. Web fonts are using that Typekit library. So as a designer, I can come and experiment here and say, you know, I really love a slab font. So under filter, I'm going to go in and get sans serif. Well, we'll go for a slab serif. And I can decide that I wanted something that's good with body text. And just really experiment a bit and say, you know what, this Factoria looks terrific. I'm going to check it, click OK. Muse will import that font. Now, those of you that know about the web know that every font you add to a site is going to make it heavier and heavier. I've just loaded a family of 16 fonts into my design. It will only include the weights that I use in my design. So if I'm afraid about it being heavy, I can make sure to only choose a limited set of weights, and the Typekit kit that's generated for the design will subset to that for sure.
Nice.
I don't remember what the heck that was called. Factoria, I think.
Yeah.
So I could come in and decide that Factoria Demi would be fabulous because it made me do it. If I like that, then I can play here and make sure it fits nicely in my design. And then I can come in and create a style for that. So when I come to paragraph styles, I'm going to add one just there. Maybe. Oh, is it adding and I'm not seeing it? No.
Or maybe you need to select the item first.
It is selected.
Just one item, I guess. Oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh. It's because of Rufus.
It's
Yeah,
Rufus's
it's because of
fault.
me, because I'm the annoyer to them going.
Somebody's got to play that role, man.
Yeah, and about that, you know, because people like see me annoying you, so they're asking me, you know,
Don't be so mean to her.
how long would it take for this font to load? I mean, it's like it's not like crazy, right? It also depends on the amount of characters you use, right?
Yeah.
The font,
So it depends on the subset and the number of styles. So styles we mean like ultra thin, ultra black italic.
Yeah.
But what is great is that Muse will detect in your design which style you're using. And now there is subsetting optimization also on the Typekit side. So I would say that usually a font like this with a style would be 100K max. So it's not that much. And what's nice is that what they did on the Typekit side is that it used to be a very poor experience. Like you wouldn't see like anything. Like you would just have images and then boom, the font would just pop on the screen. And now it's not the same. So the first time you will load the page, before loading the font from Typekit, it will just use a default font. So you can already read the text, and then it will replace it with the design. So this is the asynchronous call. I don't know how they call it, but that's much better.
The other thing that's beautiful is that if let's say you're getting on a flight and you want to work on the plane. If you open Muse and you add the Typekit fonts, you don't have to be on the web in Muse to continue to design. So I can go offline and continue to have a runtime instance of the Typekit fonts. The next time I connect, I can publish it to the web, but you can work offline even though it's Typekit designs, which sort of reminds me a little bit, as you work, the thing that's amazing is you don't need to understand code, but you can start to see how what you do will be coded on the web so easily. So I've not done too much here, but I can come into my design and pull down on File to preview my master page in the browser. Muse goes in very quickly to render HTML, CSS, JavaScript on my page. So there's my design. It's now a website. If I thought this was perfect, I could publish it live, no problem. But if I want to, I can sniff the speed that it's loading with these fonts very easily, run some benchmark tests, and see if I add a font, how does it affect the timing? If I take it away, how does it affect the timing? Okay, we're not getting very far here, gentlemen.
And I think as the time has come to do the giveaway, I think you said 30 minutes ago, but still wait a little bit.
Yeah,
everybody was so absorbed in our...
No, we have time, we have time.
We have time,
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's,
Up to you.
yeah, they want to see something responsive because they don't believe you.
Ah, good.
They don't believe you can make something responsive with that.
All right, we may only make a responsive master page, but let's
Yeah,
see.
that's good. I mean, that's already something.
Okay, so I'm gonna cheat a little here and drag my footer onto the canvas because it was already designed.
Oh, good.
And I'll bring this guy over. Looks like I need a little bit of oh, there's my background. This is a little bit of how responsive is an amazing world, because this is now a responsive design. Well, never enough time to talk about everything, but responsive is amazingly complicated for a designer's brain, if you ask me, because you have to think not only about all of your pages and all of your content, but how those behave across many different breakpoints. So I have footer content here now. And if I click in on these guys, let's go back to the paragraph styles. That's funny. I could come in and create, let's say I liked this free home evaluations. I can come in and create this as a style now. So see how it says paragraph style. And I might call it something like green banner. So I name it, but notice that I can come in and define p tags. So if, for example, this was an H2, I wanted to have priority for SEO, I can flag it as such. It probably should just be a P tag, just standard paragraph, because it's a small bit in my design. But all of the attributes, the typographic attributes, any spacing that I defined would be assigned with that along with its color. Okay, so we got that done a little bit. Let's go ahead and take this guy and give it some kind of structure. That looks pretty good for body text. And I'll line this up here. Now, it does start to beg the question, do we want to get into responsive? It's just a deep thing, is all I'm saying. But let's show just a little bit. If I wanted this design to be responsive, interestingly enough, I mentioned that the mindset with Muse is when your design breaks, you need to add a breakpoint. And if your design does not break, do not put a breakpoint, because the more breakpoints you put, the more as a designer you have to go check every single breakpoint in your design. It really is, it's powerful, but it can be laborious to maintain and manage. The more breakpoints you have, the more complexity you get. So with this design, let's just see how the responsive behavior might work. What I'm going to do is pull down on View to show breakpoints. Yay, there's the magic. So by default, I have this breakpoint defined at 960 pixels. There's a little arrow here that decides whether or not what you're doing should be infinite or not. And it's a bit of a heady concept. Remember how Michael and I were talking about this is full browser width. This will also be full browser width. Let's see if we can show this behavior. If I pull down on File to preview the page in the browser, we're suggesting that at 960, we want the design to begin to be fluid. So I just hid this. I used to have a good little breakpoint bar that would tell me where I was, but I turned it off yesterday. So I'm at about 1500 pixels here. Notice how this object is stopping and the logo is stopping. I'm going to come back to my design. I'm going to give it some intelligence. So I've got the pinning objects. You guys okay?
We need some intelligence too. Yeah, if it's is it just for Muse or? Does it work with Evangelists too? Can you give some intelligence to Evangelists too?
I'm going to try.
Okay.
If we can spread it all the way around. I think between the three of us, we might make one good.
You can drop it down here if you want.
Yeah, because Rufus is just below you, no? You can just drop it.
Hey, no problem. Okay. So I have an object here, and when you talk about pinning or behaviors, it gets more complex. So we have traditionally offered support for pinning an object in relationship to the browser edge.
Yeah.
So the obvious bit is that if you look at this site that's not responsive, right? The older version of the site, this Hearth logo is a fixed location in the corner. So if I come in, if I scroll down on my page, well, actually it's not pinned, so never mind. Let's try here, listings. Yeah, they're not pinning it. I can simulate the behavior. If I come to this guy here and I say pin this in relationship to the browser in the upper left-hand corner, just there. As my page moves, that object will stay still. If I really did want to pin it, I would come in and create another container here. And let's fill that container with white. And let's go ahead and make sure it's also stretching to the browser full width. And then I'm going to move it to the back of my document. I'll come to my phone number here and let's align it a little bit and then pin that to the other corner. And I want to make sure that that rectangle is pinned. It can be to the center because I know it's going to go full width. It doesn't matter. I'll select my text here and my bar, and I'll pin all of that. And then just to show that magic, I've defined that as a master. It automatically applies to all of my pages. I'm going to jump into the home page, and I'm going to cheat again a little bit. I think I have landing page elements. Let's see. I want to drag a little bit of welcome text onto the page here. Not that. Let's try this guy.
So Darth is asking about JavaScript widgets. So Darth Mole, you should go to muse.adobe.com because Dani will talk about responsive widgets, but not on Twitch, in a different world, in 15 minutes. So go on.
No, an hour and 15. Don't scare me.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Yeah. At what time is your session?
It's at 9 o'clock Pacific Standard. So about 52 minutes.
52 minutes, yes.
Okay. Anyhow, so I've got some text here now. Notice how the magic happens because I define that as a master element.
Okay.
Anything I place on the page will push the footer away. I've got a bit of a big gap here, so I'll go back to my master and reduce that gap to come much closer. I like a little bit of a buffer. And then when I come back to my page, that applies. I can grow this guy and stretch it just that way. Select just this container and make it a little larger. If I come back to my master though, I've now got some text content here and I want to look at how it's responding. There's two ways you can do it. One is I have a gripper here that as I drag, I can see what's happening to my content. Now I've pinned Hearth and I've pinned the phone number and the fax at the top, and that's behaving pretty well. But notice I haven't done anything with my footer yet. This is simulating the responsive behavior. Now, the more content you get, this gets a little slow in the design canvas, so you can always preview in browser and see it live if you'd like to. Let's go ahead and make sure we've got all of these elements. I think I've defined them as pinned in the right way. If I come back to my active page, and I'm gonna just build this out a little bit more. Let's try this. I just want to get some page content here. I'm obviously going to need some kind of a background. It's hard to design on demand, I'll tell you. That's why I don't do it. Create this container.
Design, Dani. Design.
Do it. Dance, Dani. Okay, so not the most beautiful bits, but we don't have time for beauty. What I want to show you is if I now come to this page and I preview it in the browser. So preview page in browser. We've already done some pretty interesting things. We have the header content.
Mm-hmm.
If I go wider, Earth will stay to the left, phone and fax will stay to the right. I can control this in just a little bit if I want to, but I get to a certain point, my footer is down there. And as I get smaller, what I find is my design starts to break. My phone numbers are stacking in a weird way. My navigation's getting all mushed.
It's a mess. It's a mess, Dani.
It's kind of a mess, exactly. So I'm going to come to these guys, and I'll just make sure I can choose whether or not I want them to resize. So I may say, you know, this logo, I like it just the way it is. Do not resize it. Leave it locked in essence. But for the headline here, I may say, go ahead and make it responsive width, along with the text responsive width. Now, I could pin them to the center, but when in doubt, try to not pin objects first and see how it goes. It just, depending on the behavior of the browser, the Muse engine's having to work incredibly hard to figure out how to make this dynamically responsive. And you kind of have to experiment a little bit. So I've gone in and made those changes. I'm going to use a keyboard command now to preview again in the browser and just press and drag. And I'm getting some nice behavior. See how my text is flowing? I could go all the way probably to a phone layout without much trouble.
Okay, so in this case, what is changing is the size of the box, but not the size of the typeface. So this is just
exactly.
Okay.
And I can make rules about that behavior as I'm working. I may decide that, well, the rule with us, we have an extraordinary typographer on the team, and he said making text squish is bad. What you can do as a typographer is choose how your breakpoints are set to make the typography the best that it can be. So again, we're going to probably need to stop in a little bit soon. So I'm going to cut some corners here. Let's say I wanted to just work on the responsiveness of this site. I could decide that this is good for my desktop layout. I'm going to go back to my master and look at just my top nav and my bottom nav and how I want my breakpoints to behave. This text right here, it's set to flow or resize. I'm going to go ahead and lock it so that it doesn't resize. The logo here, I like it that way. But as I come along, 960 is kind of on the small side. I would probably do 1200 for desktop, but I'll bring this down. And let's say I wanted my tablet to be about 745 pixels. When I drag the gripper to where my design breaks, I can add a breakpoint just by clicking that plus button. And now I can come in. Yes, sir.
So you said, Dani, like, do you have any personal rule about how many of these various breakpoints you create in your websites, or?
There's been a lot of discussion about it. From a coding standpoint, there's really no consequence to multiple breakpoints. It doesn't make the code heavier. What does make the code heavier is if, let's say in my design, I wanted to have a big, beautiful photo of a house for desktop, but on a phone, I wanted to use a very different photo for all of my content because I may want it to be a more, well, that's kind of a funny example. As you're working, if you have the ability to hide objects on a breakpoint. So let's say on my desktop layout, there's about Hearth Company as a real estate agency, and it's a very big block of text. And on the phone, no fool is going to sit there and read about the history of Hearth. I may want to hide content for my mobile devices. If I have lots of hidden content, that can make the code a little slower, but it's not going to load, let's say, that text on the phone layout. It's going to only load the elements that are there. So that was a convoluted answer, but I think you experiment. Definitely define 4 classes of devices. Like I know on a tablet, people can't use a mouse to go to the navigation. So I would introduce a Hamburger Menu for the tablet and the phone, and I'll make that decision. That helps me decide where I put the breakpoints, but it's really around your design. Less is more, just from a production standpoint, is my guidance. Okay?
Thank you.
I'm going to keep going because we're getting to the fun part. So here I have my tablet layout, and I can just adjust how things are looking. I may decide that this contact form should come to the center, which is great. And I may even decide, well, we'll leave it here for now, I'll bring this guy to the center, and I'll bring this guy to the center. That's interesting. Yes. The little shout out to Muse Themes, because this is all of their creative original content. And I can always align these and work and such. But notice if I jump back, it's on the left or on the right. When I jump here for tablet, it's different. Over here, I can control whether or not any typographic changes I make per breakpoint are unique or the same across. So I may decide, you know what, tablet, it's harder to see. I'm going to come in and make sure that these are not pinned to the left anymore because I've centered them. I could just center them, but like I said, I would ordinarily turn off pinning, see what's happening, and then maybe pin to center, but I'll start with that as a choice. So on desktop, it's aligned to the right, and this guy can be aligned center, that's fine. And then tablet, they're all centered. So I've made some good decisions there. For my navigation, this just won't do. It's too hard to squish on a tablet. So what I'd like to do instead is introduce a mobile menu. I'll go over to my bag of tricks here, where I have menu mobile, and I'm going to drag that out onto the side. Let's take a look at what that is. Not really sure. Oh yeah. So what I have is a cute little hamburger. And if you do come to my session in 45 minutes, I'll teach you how to make a hamburger.
Wow, that's a good pitch.
She works in sales.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because these things are hard. But what I want to do, this is really interesting, is I want to decide that for tablet and smartphone, this is my navigation. So what I do is come to this bit here, these elements. Maybe I'll keep the black bar. But for this menu, I'm going to right click and select hide in other breakpoints. Ooh. It's a really lazy way to say hide it actually in this breakpoint or all other breakpoints. I want to hide in this breakpoint because I only have the tablet set up. I don't need the logo here because we already have that, but I'm going to introduce my hamburger menu. And this is probably going to be weird because it's meant to be, I think, at the top of the page, but you guys will get the idea, I believe. So if I do that and then I click to expand it, I'm going to fill the little drop down. Bear with me, I'm just modifying this based on the time we have. It's not going to be highly fashionable, but when you come to my session in 45 minutes, this is. I know I'm pushing my luck now. I want you to stay and you to come. All right, I'm just going to let it be a little messy because you guys trust me, I'm sure, that I can make it beautiful. So I now have basically this hamburger menu behavior for tablet. When I jump back to the desktop, I have my other navigation. This may not be beautiful, but we're going to test anyhow. Yes,
now they all want to go to the other session. So the other session won't be on Twitch. So visit.
It will not be on Twitch.
Muse.adobe.com. Yeah,
muse.adobe.com.
In the events section.
Why don't you put the URL there? It's going to be
it's in the chat.
Connect.
Oh, it's okay.
My.AdobeConnect.com, you know, it's /MuseJam for Connect.
Okay.
Yeah. So notice that navigation I put on the tablet is here on the desktop. Now I get to come in and say hide this in this breakpoint. So I've got the hamburger only on tablet, and I've got the desktop nav there. If I now come back to my page layout, this is not going to be perfect, but let's see what we've got. I do want to show you, we indicate on the page, you've created a breakpoint on your master. And that's what this little, we call these fangs on the team, but this little triangle indicates that there's a breakpoint on the master. It does not need to affect my page content because that's different design. It will break in different places, but my master, I like that. So as I drag here, I'm going to get to where I've defined that second breakpoint. Looks like I need to define it a little sooner because my navigation's breaking a little bit there. And looks like I'm in a little funny place. Let's see. I'm going to come back here, see what's going on. So I want to make sure I pin this guy to the right-hand side. Should be fine. And again, it probably needs a little fiddling, but let's go back now. This is why, again, I love Muse. I'm not coding it up. I'm not going really far down a path of making a decision about my design. I can quickly see the effect of what I've done. I have a sort of mysterious hamburger menu here, but
It's here.
It's somewhere.
We know it's there. Yeah.
Exactly. We trust you, Dani.
Is it a layer issue?
It's probably just, yeah, I know. I'm not sure. I could dig in, but I'm aware of the time a little bit. Let's make it way too small. And it just may be, I'm not sure why this is behaving like this. I'm gonna grab another one that I trust here. So I'm gonna go in and say ham, because goodness knows, there's lots of hams. I'm gonna go to all libraries and see, how about menu? Okay. This is from a totally different design, and it still may not get me there, but.
And I have a question from The Guardian. What's the relationship between Muse and Dreamweaver? What sent them apart?
Dreamweaver is still an incredible tool for hand coders to customize and do anything they want. Terry White once said that Muse is kind of like McDonald's and Dreamweaver's like, a custom cuisine, but that made my engineers really, really angry. It's more that if you are a hand coder and you love the power you have with hand coding and you do lots of custom work, I think Dreamweaver is still a great place to be. But Muse, like the web, like technology and computers, continues to take common web behaviors and automate them. So I think it depends on what you're trying to do. But Muse can take you all the way to a large extent. All right, I'm not sure about my menu. I'm going to run away from that. But let me just show you how I would come to this design real quickly. I'm going to come in, and I may decide that I want to put a breakpoint in that same tablet location. I can double-click on the triangle and then click once again to instantiate a breakpoint there. And I'll come into my objects and just decide how they work. I still like them in this way. And I can come in and resize them depending on how they're structured. I'll just do a quick job of it here. Maybe not so quick. There's some control keys that are very much like InDesign that allow you to grab groups and scale them in fun ways. I've gotten pretty good at those lately. Again, this is awful, but we don't have much time, says Dani. This still looks okay to me, but I'm going to come on in and go all the way down to more of a phone layout, and I'll add that. And for that, I may decide, you know what, this text is much too small. It must be bigger for the phone that I'm working with. Yeah. So I'm increasing its size. I'll come into this container and move it down, grab my two little blocks, maybe. Try this.
So Dani, there's a comment for your team from BK Duck. Muse is an interior design studio. Dreamweaver is a Home Depot.
There you go.
Yeah, don't tell the Dreamweaver team.
No.
I know. Unfortunately, one gets mad or the other.
Yeah.
But honey, I love you the best. It's like having children. Okay. So because this is SVG, I can come in and just create these tiles now. There is a very cool tool we're beta testing that allows you to select any object and just move everything below it down. It's very fun. If you would like to be involved with Muse in its development, you may be new to Muse, but if you go to museprerelease.com, you can join our private beta and help influence how we're developing the product. So.
Oh, look, where is your Hamburger Menu? So that?
Where?
It was there.
No.
Next to buying. You see that?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
No, but I believe you. So if you select all, I believe you. This is the thing about responsive. Here?
It was next to buying.
Yeah, I believe you.
Yeah, below the gray. Yeah.
It's gone rogue. I don't know what to say. Okay. So we've got these very simple examples. I'm just going to look now at where we are. We've got a bit of a mess.
There's one question that's been repeated a lot of times from Gish S4G. Are you guys going to improve or work on the in-browser editor in future updates?
Go join the beta right now. Right now. Needs pre-release. Because maybe we pushed out a beta of in-browser editing yesterday that maybe is going to make you very excited.
Maybe.
All right.
So what is is it pre-release.muse.com?
Just museprerelease.com.
Museprerelease.com.
We don't roll like the rest of Adobe.
Yeah.
We do our own thing.
Rogue.
So,
Rogue.
yeah. You have to agree not to talk publicly about what you learn there. You can use the tools in production, but you can't tell people how you did it. Okay, so it's a mess right now, but notice I've got my desktop design. As I come in, I jump to my mysterious hamburger menu, but I have my other design. I've got weird pinned objects here. But if I come down even further to my phone layout, I get the stacking of my little buying and selling. So definitely needs refining, but I'm starting to get it.
I really like the way you can see the breakpoints, like these visual breakpoints. It's really great.
If I thought this was amazing and Rufus was driving me crazy and I had to show it to him, what I can do is just come to Publish Now. And by default, I'm going to create a temporary site. I'm going to call it Rufus. And it's going to be orufus.businesscatalyst.com. I click OK. And Muse will generate all the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript for this very, very messy site that I have. And then I just have a URL. I send it to Rufus. He can review it. I can iterate change. If he thinks it's perfect, I then use FTP to push it to one of my hosting platforms.
So let me put it in the chat.
Oh, don't, because they're going to examine the code and the mess and say, oh.
But maybe they're going to find a hamburger icon.
Yeah, that will be the game.
So there we have it.
There we go. Nice.
Well, I hope you invite me back to your show someday. I can show more toys. There's plenty.
You know, Dani, every time there is something new to show, just ping us, you know. Your favorite guest. And we had a lot of feedback in the chat saying, oh, it's a great Twitch. Thanks.
Yeah.
So.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Dani, what can we say?
It's my pleasure.
And it worked out really well, this new setup, right? That we have, like,
yeah, it's amazing.
Share screens and talk, and wow.
Really nice.
Technology, I tell you.
You see, San Francisco, Paris, Italy.
I know.
At the same time, all on Twitch. I mean, that's cool. Mm-hmm. So yeah, if you want to follow Dani, she will be live in 30 minutes. I've already put the link in the chat.
Exactly. Quick little break, and then I will be over there soon.
Yeah.
Thank you, gentlemen. It must be time for your giveaway.
Yeah, it will be time for giveaway, and then
you want to see the giveaway and announce the
Yeah, we can
see who wins.
I can, if you can ignore me. I'll probably stop sharing here, so that I can start to do new things. But I'll stay for a little while.
All right.
Okay, good. So actually, I should try to find a way.
Can you share your screen?
That's a good question. I should be able to show my screen.
Yeah, that thing is there, the bar. New share.
Yeah. Can you stop sharing your screen?
Oh yeah, stop sharing.
Oh, here we go.
Oh hi, there you guys are.
Wow. I've lost the layout, of course. So sorry, it's a little bit messy, I guess, on Twitch now, but this should work. Okay, so I will show you something, guys.
Whoever is speaking gets the big screen. It's automatic.
See that?
Okay, so it's time for some giveaways. So I will log in on Nightbot, and we'll use the giveaway section. So let me show you how it works, and you will see that it's not rigged, like it's in real time. So first, guys, to get a 1-year Creative Cloud subscriptions, you have to say something in the chat. So be active for 30 seconds, be very active for 1 minute. You have to say something to be eligible. So I give you 30 seconds to say something. And Dani, now you are almost in full screen, so people can see your face. And now that's Rufus. Yeah, so say something. So you see, because this is feeding the list. Also, if you follow the Adobe Twitch channel, it will give you more chances.
Yeah. And while they're actually filling in, I mean, chatting around, in half an hour we're going to have Jonah Loeb on the stream.
Oh,
so,
nice.
Yeah, and Jonah is continuing on his build your own bestiary workshop. This is going to be his second session. Yeah,
This is a big time training that we have on Twitch to learn how to design characters. Yeah. Okay. Notice me. Okay, so we have some activity in the chat now. It's moving fast. Yes, it is. Okay, I think I have enough activity in the chat. So now I will just roll. And you will see with me.
Roll
the winner is Raptor955. And he's following us since yesterday. That's great. So Raptor, now you have to say something. You have to say something in the chat. You have to say, yay, thank you.
Just so we can find you.
Yeah, we want to make sure you're alive. So just say something. Raptor955. And you will get the 1-year Creative Cloud subscriptions. You will receive a message in your Twitch message box right after the live.
How much time do we give Raptor to write in the chat?
He will say, I'm pretty sure he's there. Come on, Raptor, just say something. Don't go to the bathroom.
Come on, Raptor.
Come on. Oh my God, I think he went to the bathroom.
Yeah, if Raptor.
Hey, thanks, Adobe. Okay, he says something.
All right.
Okay, Raptor, you got it. Congratulations. You get a 1-year Creative Cloud subscriptions. And of course, Dani, Muse is part of Creative Cloud. So
exactly.
Raptor, we have a full access to Photoshop, Illustrator, and Adobe Muse, and you will start building responsive websites. So that's great. Again, Dani, thank you. And I guess Rufus and I will just launch Muse, and I will start building responsive pages with the guys for 30 minutes.
All right.
Beautiful.
Let's do that.
See you later.
Yeah. See you, Dani.
Thank you.
Okay, Rufus, we're back. Okay, so I'm trying to place your head somewhere on the screen.
Place me somewhere, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so we just place you here.
We had almost 250 messages in the giveaway minute.
Wow.
Wow.
That was crazy. Okay, so that's me. Where is Dani?
Dani's left, right?
Yeah, but the name is still there. Oh, okay, here we go. So this is me, and this is Rufus. Okay, now we can start working. So let's see if I am a good student. Okay. Now I will launch Muse and I will see if I understood something. If I can build a responsive web page or... Is Rufus a mod again? I don't know. I have the sword.
Who's asking? Who's asking?
Pofas.
Pofas is. And I'm gonna chat, you know? Ha ha. Ta-da! I fought for it and I got my sword back. Yes.
So Raptor955, again, congratulations. I will just open your profile so I don't forget you. Right after the live, I will send you a message. And please, if you build websites with Adobe Muse, if you do anything with the Creative Cloud, please share your entries and your art with us, with Rufus and myself. Okay, now I will try to keep our faces up somewhere here. Here we go. Okay, so Muse. So she did like new fluid width. Yeah, that's the new thing because it used to be fixed width. So now responsive, they call it fluid. This is your first giveaway. Oh, that's cute. Yeah, thanks for staying with us. Don't forget to follow the Adobe Twitch channel. There is a follow button at the bottom. And this is
by the way, we have about 11 new followers in the last hour. So we have Russell Waite.
Thanks, Russell.
Dabble, Michael Backes, Left-Handed Blitz, Henry's Cat 69, Rafa 2901, Cipollini, maybe Italian, who knows? Cipollini, Gorilla Goza, J Brozen, Wuxi Ha, and SQXCV. So,
whoa.
I always have to read these names like first in my mind and then read them out loud, just in case people don't make weird things with their letters, you know. Like, you know, Bart Simpson when he calls out the bar.
Okay, so do we? Oh, I don't know if I have a web. Oh, that's old. Okay, let me open an old web design that I've never used. Okay, so she was feeding creative code libraries. That was very interesting, actually. Like feeding the libraries with menus and stuff. That was good. So here I have prototype app. So here that's a graphic. Okay, let me add it to the library, a logo. And oh, this PNG is interesting. What else? Okay, just let's try to build a website with this. Oh, and also I want to add a color. There we go. And maybe pick this one. Okay, so if I go back to Muse, so be careful because I know you will make the mistake. If you open library, these are not creative code libraries. You have to open CC libraries. That's tricky. And then prototype app, and I have my elements. So easy. So she went inside the master page, right?
Yes.
And okay, let's try to create a header like the one she did. Okay, I'm trying to place some stuff. Okay, so she made a rectangle and said stretch to border with. Okay, so it works. And fill with this. Okay, that was easy. Okay, and then I want to place this logo here. And center it. So I guess there's a line somewhere. Yeah. Is it centered? Come on.
Right now I'm seeing what you do at 30 seconds later, so.
Yeah. Oh, there was a smart guide. So, okay, that was easy. And this is what she was playing with, you know. So here you see as I resize the page, it will change the size of the logo, which is okay, actually. I mean, why not? But let's try to understand why it's doing that. It's because here there is a resize menu. And I said resize width and width. Okay, so I will say none. I don't want to resize it. And I will pin the logo to the top center of the page, and this bar too. So if I scroll down, it should stay, right? So what are you creating, Big Face? We just had a masterclass with Dani Beaumont, who is the product manager of Adobe Muse. And we learned how to create a responsive page. So that's, and she just left. So basically I have 20 minutes to try to create one because I was just following, but now it's hands-on, you know. I want to create one. And she did a menu too. So she had like several pages, like home, and then we add, it's for a restaurant. So a la carte and, book, a table, and contact. Okay. So she created a menu using a widget library here. Menus, horizontal menu. Okay, so let me just drag and drop this. Okay, and indeed, I get the 4 pages. But her style was much better. So here, this is the background. So I don't want the background, so I will just fill it with noun. And here, it's very important. You have 4 states. So when you have menu items, you have the normal state, roll over when the mouse is over, mouse down when you click, and active, which means that you are on this page. So I just want to have transparent backgrounds for all the states. Here we go. Oh yeah, and she grabbed the like good fonts from Typekit, so we should try to do that.
Yeah, some slab serifs, yeah.
So where is it? Add web fonts.
I think slab serifs work really well on web pages.
On menus, yeah. Yeah, she went into the filter here. Oh, this is loading, okay. And she picked a slab serif. So there was Adele, Arvo. Let's pick one I don't know. Let's take Jubila. Ooh. So I check this, Jubila, I click on OK, and this is loading the fonts. Okay, good. How about CSS Swiss Transitions? Locker's rule. That's a good question. I think you can do some effects. So there are some scroll effects, but it doesn't work with responsive pages. And also you can have like fade in, fade out effects. With the states, between the states roll over, and this is using CSS Transitions in the background. And yes, there are plugins, yeah, good point, Theara Greek. Okay, so Jubila should be somewhere, yes. Yeah, it's a nice font. Good. Can have a bug in the UI. Don't know if it's because I'm sharing my screen or not, but prefer to launch Muse again.
Okay.
I have some weird behaviors when I share the screen.
Oh. Are you sharing the screen right now, or are you...
Yeah, because I'm on HDMI, you know.
Ah, okay.
So let's try again. I want to select the text tool. And she used... Where is it? Here. Jubila. Oh, here we go. No.
CSS Transitions. No, I mean, people are saying there's no CSS Transitions, but they are in Muse CSS. We have CSS Transitions now.
Yeah.
In buttons and things, so yeah.
Yeah, between the states, like if I roll over, I want to fade in, fade out.
Yeah. Check it out. There are CSS Transitions, and this is one of the new features that came in the last release.
But I need to, yeah. I don't know how to showcase it, so I need to deep dive. But maybe next time we'll show it. Okay, so that's the menu, and oh, what I will try something. I will say that in the active states, just in the active states, we want to change the font to make it bold. Here we go. So actually we can try it now. If I preview not the page, but the site in the browser, it will render the 4 pages. Is there a trial of this available? Yes. If you go on adobe.com you can download a trial of 30 days of Creative Cloud, and it includes Adobe Muse. And here we go. Now I jump from one page to another one, and I have the right behavior. If I resize, the menu is responsive. The size is changing. I don't like that. So I will select the widget, and I don't want it to resize. Okay, so that's good. So maybe we should try to reproduce the behavior. You know what she did with 3 pictures?
Yeah.
Like 3 columns and move it to 2 columns and 1.
Yeah.
Let's just try something basic. So how can we do that? So let me put a container first. So 1. Just we'll fill it with a dummy color. 1, 2, and 3. And let's take some pictures. So in the library, or maybe I can do it from Muse, by the way. Yes, I can search on stock and pick some previews. So it's a restaurant, so I will say, I don't know, fourchette. Directly searching here. Because, you know, Adobe Stock is the result of the acquisition of Fotolia. So it's very good for me because everything, Fotolia is a French company. How do you do media queries? You will see that, but it's just using design, so you don't have to pay attention to that. You don't have to code. Okay, so we'll save the preview of a fourchette. Then I will search for bread. Save a preview. And what else? I don't know. Server, waiter.
Waiter. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, waiter. Okay. Oh, and there is something, I think. Okay, so here I will just add this image.
Dinosaur says, how do you do media queries? But in this case, it's not the media queries like based on the breakpoints you apply.
Yeah,
right?
they will be generated.
Yeah.
Okay, good. One more. So if you know InDesign, these are really the same shortcuts, the same controls to manipulate text and images. Okay, so now let's try to create these media queries. So here I have this resize behavior, which is not something you want for these images. So let me go back here. So if I select everything, does it work? I say no resize. Yes. Oh, that's weird.
It's not working?
Now the thing is that it will change the positions of the blocks. So they are not resized, which is great. It will change their position. So maybe I have to pin them here to the center. Yeah, that's it. Okay. That's good. So now if I go here, I need to add a breakpoint because the design will break. So here this is where she adds a breakpoint, and in the background it will add a media query. So I guess you got it. So I can change my rules. So for instance, let's try to move this one here, center it. I will try to completely change the design to see how it works. Okay, so completely different layout. Okay, not very efficient, but just to see if it works. And now if I play with the, what's the name? The gripper?
The gripper, yeah. It's what a funny name.
And I can jump on the media query and adjust everything. So here it should be pinned to the center. And I will resize with a responsive width. And the picture too should be resized with and then I can add one more, you know. But then when you want to try the page in the browser, you just go here and say, preview the page in the browser, and then you will see. Okay, and then you have the breakpoints. And I already have one, so this is really badly designed, but because I have a breakpoint and then I need to create another one right after, so this is not something you want.
Maybe you could group the two images and they would scale together.
Yeah, I could group, and I could scale the size, and yeah. I mean, you have to play with these parameters because that's really new in Muse. But when you look at the websites created, so if you go on muse.adobe.com, there is a section which is a site of the day, and you will see, I mean, what has been created, and it's quite impressive what you can do. So I invite you to check that. In here, so she was. Okay, let me try something else. So now if we have a block like this, and I will resize it to stretch with border width, and I don't want to fill it with a color this time. I want to fill it with a photo, with an image. So yeah, this for instance. And I will say scale to fill. So what do we have? Okay, that's good. This is something we have all the time. Okay, so I could add a title here. Say macaron.
Le macaron.
Yeah. Just to see how it behaves. Okay, nice. You could go for a macaron, yes. No? Oh yeah, me too. But then if you check the master page, we have an issue with the menu. Like it's not centered.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't see it in live, in real time.
Yeah.
So it's really
because
hard.
it wasn't pinned to the center. Okay, now it's much better. So if I go back here. Stretch to border width. Okay, so now this one should look good. Yeah. Nice. And then we could try a basic section.
And then, unfortunately, very soon, like in less than 4 minutes.
Oh.
Yeah, we're gonna hand the stream over to Jonah Loeb.
We'll see.
Actually, that's actually good for him. But you know, we could have gone on for hours, like playing with Adobe Muse and checking out the responsive web design here. Maybe we should continue next time. Let's see.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I need to give more tries.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff to try out and to see exactly how it works. But the minute you understand how it works, it makes so much sense.
Yeah, it's not easy though. Huh? I mean, to use all these new responsive rules and always test, you know, how it behaves. But I really like the fluid behavior. So this works very well. Yeah, this works very well.
No, Jonah Loeb, that's not what I meant. I corrected myself. Of course. Yeah, so, I mean, the things that you're doing with Molten Ink are so interesting. This is really like a course on character design, and those of you who are interested in character design should definitely stay for that session.
Yeah. So yeah, and make sure you follow the Adobe Twitch channel to be notified, and you get stuck when playing with Adobe programs. So yeah, that's exactly what's happening now. But yeah, we think we should think about a good use case. You know, like what kind of website we can create and start working on it. Like, and we try to make it responsive. Also, what is very good for to exercise and practice is to take an existing one and try to reproduce the same behavior. That's how I learned a lot of trick in web design. So yeah, thank you guys for following us. We were very happy to have Dani with us. That was great.
Yes.
So when do we? Yeah, we'll be.
And I think this is definitely something we want to do again with Dani, because like chatting with the product manager for Adobe Muse, that's really, really useful for everyone.
And also I can share with you that every time there will be a new Adobe XD release and new features, the team will also be with us in our stream. Okay, so I guess now we found a solution, because I wanted to trend them on Twitch with OBS, etc. But I think it makes more sense just to use Zoom.
Really well.
Yeah, and it works very well. It really makes sense. So yeah, we would just do that. We'll just do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
And what else? Yeah, we're going to be back for the weekly lowdown on Monday.
Yeah, on Monday.
7 a.m. to 9 a.m.
We'll be there.
Big time. And yeah, I mean, hey, Jonah Loeb, are you ready?
Oh, Erika, you remember the Believe t-shirt? Yeah. Yeah, we should do make a shop, for t-shirts. Why not? It's a good use case.
That's right. Did he ever answer? No, of course not.
Justin, no. He's too shy. He's too shy.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you guys, and stay with us, and Jonah Loeb, and see you on Monday. Yeah. Bye, Rufus.
Yeah. See you on Monday. Bye. Bye, everyone.